All right, welcome to episode 72, where me and Chip interview Ben Brooks, team member of Mi Duole. The next couple episodes are all about interviewing our own team and getting to know guys and gals who ride for us and live in our neighborhood and understanding a bit more about their stories. Ben is one that you want to know, that you want to learn about. He's a three-time LOTOJA champion. That's 3 years in a row, 2019, 2020, and 2021. And he'll tell that story. He'll talk all about how he arrived in cycling, endurance sports. He's an Ironman. He's done Wasatch 100. This is the ultimate athlete and man, and we're grateful for Ben and the time that he spent on this podcast. Thanks to all of you. Grateful for this team. A lot of fun stuff going on with Zwift. Team kits are open, and obviously the team dues are open for 2023. So take care of those. And we look forward to being together at Team Camp coming up in April. So that's it. Enjoy Ben Brooks and the next couple episodes with our awesome team, getting to know everybody. All right, enjoy. All right, what up? Welcome, everybody. We are episode 72. If you're watching video, I'm Stuart here with Chip. And what up, Ben?
What up, Stu?
What up?
All right.
Get on this thing, man.
Ben Brooks already did a sesh this morning up Little Cottonwood, and it is like, dude, what was the temp up there? Like 4?
No, it was in the negatives for sure.
What?
Yeah.
You consider wind chill and all that. Yeah, it was very cold.
Oh my gosh.
But hopefully that kept people that didn't want to get cold away, right?
That's right.
I want that now for myself.
We're going to dig into Ben Brooks. We can't wait to, he's got a lot, especially, we're going to dig into Wasatch. We just found out he's done Wasatch 100 twice, ladies and gentlemen. I can't wait to hear about how that idiotic decision was made. This is going to be amazing. Okay, I wrote Ben's intro. Ready? Ben, you can stop me and just be like, that is not true at any moment.
Okay.
Dude, the first time I remember meeting you, and Chip, maybe, I don't know, it's not fuzzy. So like most guys on the team, we were arriving at the same spot, at the same time, at the same place, just like old. Yeah, we're just like, and then over the time, I'm like, well, who is that guy? Like, he's always here. And I remember it was like after a year or something like that. Ben, he's quiet, he's strong, he's with the group. We're at the same time. And so I'm like, hey, who are you? Why are you? Do you want to ride? We should ride together. And then that was it. I mean, the invitation to be part of the group, thankfully, Ben accepted. And
it took me a little bit, but I was like, these guys are like really organized. And the folks I rode with, we would do a Monday morning ride, called it MMR. And you guys were there as well.
Mm-hmm.
But that group, they just weren't as consistent as Mi Duole was. You guys are always there. You have a huge group, super organized. And I kind of came down to a point where I'm like, dude, we're riding everywhere all at the same time. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Hey, so if you know anything about Ben, exceptional athlete. We'll get the details about this, but 3-time LOTOJA champion, back to back. And correct me if I'm wrong, Ben, but Cat 5, 2019, Cat 4, 2020, Cat 3, 2021. Is that correct?
Got it.
That is how
Very
a real
cool.
man races LOTOJA. Mm-hmm. He moves up and he doesn't sit in Cat 5 and pretend that he... Sorry. I won't name any names. So well done, Ben. If you follow him on Strava, he's also accomplished backcountry skier, which we talked about this morning. 4 Canyons ride. That is not something that's rare to him. But then he'll also go compete in a crit, which is super fun. We saw you on the podium last year at that was the Salt Lake City, just like championship crit. What was that?
Yeah, I think that's what it was. So Sugar House crit. I'll thank Lang and Brower that got me after that. So they
nice.
They were like, hey, come do this. I'm like, all right.
Okay.
Yes.
You ride mountain bike too, swimming pool. Instagram is filled with you fishing, trail running, a triathlon or two, maybe? You done some triathlons?
Done 4 Ironmans.
Oh
so
my.
We can talk about that too if you want.
Strong.
I'm not as fast as the gal you had last week, a couple weeks ago. I've seen her around. She's quick.
She's legit.
Mm-hmm.
3 beautiful kids and a senior sales executive at Advanced MD, an all-in-one medical software. Is that good? Still your job?
Very impressive. They should hire you.
This morning I was listening to Masterclass. Have you guys ever heard Masterclass before? Okay, so I was listening to these cool interviews with Coach
Oprah,
K.
right? Oprah Winfrey.
Oprah's on there. I was listening to Coach K though, and he talked about being a valued-based leader, and Ben is that guy. He's filled with integrity, loyalty. He's kind, and when he leads, it's because people follow him out of respect, which is what I love about you, Ben. You're a great friend and teammate because of that reason, and dude, just a huge part of who we are. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Okay, we got to hear some background and history.
Okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
So, you already touched on it a little bit. My wife's Katie, born and raised in Utah, went to Highland High School, grew up in Sugar House. Probably Adam Barker's on the team. Kind of near where John Olson lives now, and probably 10 blocks below Adam Barker where he grew up. So knew him and his family growing up. His sister's my age, and I'm one of 9 kids. So that's unique. I'm number 6. So
wow.
I could be missing for days. That was nice. I call my dad for curfew and he'd be like, "What are you doing? It's 12 o'clock. You're fine. I'm going to bed."
Yeah.
I got away with a lot. And love my family. A lot of my sports and stuff was because of my family. I started swimming when I was 6 years old. Salt Lake Swimming and Tennis Club, right, guys?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's many people that are there. That was like my babysitter. My parents just dropped me off at the swim team there. I was on the swim team when I was just a little guy, and started racing there. Started doing swim team year round. I really only did 3 sports. I did Little League football. Stopped after freshman year. I swam my whole life. And then we had a great high school team. We won state 3 times, and I played water polo. Started water polo in 8th grade.
Nice.
And after high school, so one thing I would share too, just love my family. We're a tight group. When I was 17, my mom passed away with my sister in a car accident. That was a really tragic thing. But I think was a great opportunity for my family to come together, character building, increased my interest in my faith, things like that. After high school, went to the U for a semester, and then I went on served a mission in Taiwan. Came home, and I wanted to swim. My older brother had swam at BYU for 4 years. I wasn't going to do the BYU thing. I'm a Ute. And my other brother swam for the U 1 year. I was going to walk on the U team, but the coach was kind of like, "Yeah, you're like this project. You're like out of shape." So I flew back east, went to 1 year of school at Westchester University, swam there. I swam dual meets against Penn State, Princeton. It was what I needed to just fill that void in my life. Came back, finished at the U, and then really from there, I wanted to stay active, right? So what do you do when you're swimming? It's not like you're like your basketball buddies. You're like, "Hey guys, let's get our Speedos on and go hang out."
Although that's kind of like our cycling team.
Yeah.
Hey, this is very different. We have fun. Cool. But yes, there's, spandex has followed me around. Believe it or not.
Nice.
And back then, it wasn't, people wear jammers now. When I swam, it was Speedos, baby.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes.
Full on. And it was like, when we raced, it was like, let's find the smallest Speedo you can fit in, because we thought that was the fastest, right?
That's so good.
So, anyway, so that's a little bit about my childhood growing up. I had a great childhood, great parents. Very fortunate to have a loving home that I came from. So,
Dang, and a college swimmer then. I mean, right? I mean, that is collegiate swimming. That is rad. What events would you race?
So I raced the 200 IM, the 100 free, and the 500. I ended
500.
up, while I was there, actually getting into more of the shorter distances. So while I was at Westchester, they had me race the 100 free and the 200 free.
Got it. Yeah. Very cool.
That's incredible, Ben.
Nice. And then I would say you're now, okay, let's transform. You're drawn to cycling. Is that true? I mean, how did that come about?
Yeah. So here's what happened. I come back from swimming in college, and I'm like, now what, right? Like I said, what do you do? So, my older brother had done like a half Ironman at one point, and I had a friend in high school who was a really big biker. His name was Alex Rock. He's a doctor now, but he worked at Contender for a little bit. I used to make fun of him growing up because I'm like, dude, what are these like little socks you wear? These little cycling socks. We used to tease him. But anyway, all of a sudden, this world of triathlon, I'm like, hey, I can't remember who it was. Somebody's like, let's go do Spudman, right? You've done Spudman, right, Stu?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, let's go do Spudman, right? And so we go do the Spudman, and I came out of the water like first or second out of the water. I hop on my bike, and it's like I get passed like 50 times, right? I could hear the dude with like the disc wheel coming from like a mile away. Like, and then he just keeps going, and I'm like pedaling, and I'm like, what the crap? I'm like in good shape. I'm a swimmer. Like, come on, I can't keep up with this guy. And then I'd hold my own on the run, right? So I got into triathlon, was doing some mid-distance sprint, Olympic, and then I ended up joining a singles ward after I graduated college. I wasn't doing a ton of races, but ended up doing the singles ward in college, and then there was a group of guys that liked to cycle. So we'd go out and do some, got big cottonwood. Obviously we felt like that was a big deal at the time. And then there was all of a sudden, here's what happened. 2010, if you recall, Ironman said we're coming to St. George. And it's not the half, it's the full right. Distance, right? And since I was a kid, I remember, Mark Allen. I remember that you've all seen the video of the girl that's crawling to the finish line, right? Mm-hmm. She's like collapsing and, gets there and she's like exhausted and everybody cheers, whatever. So since I was a kid, I mean, the Ironman has always had an appeal to me. And the swimming part, I have that leg up, right? So I was thinking about it when I heard it, and I was like, I should do that. But one dude in my singles ward, this guy named Ron Fair, he sends an email out to this group of guys that were cycling together. He's like, I just signed up for Ironman St. George. And I'm like, Ron, you've never even done a triathlon, never even done a sprint or Olympic. He's like, I don't care, I'm doing it. So I'm like, literally, I will tell you what, I saw that email, I pulled out my wallet, grabbed my credit card, went online and signed up like 2 minutes later. I'm like, no way, Ron. I'm like, you are not doing this. You've never done a triathlon and not doing it without me. So signed up right there. And these races are kind of pricey. It's like
$500,
$700 for Ironman. So I did that first Ironman in 2010 in St. George. Did all right.
Wow.
I think it was like 10 hours and something. And then let's see, I didn't do it the next year, but then there was another year they came back, and this was the year, if you recall, there was huge waves in the water.
Yeah.
Like 10-foot swells. They were pulling people out of the water because they were worried people were going to die. I think actually one person did die, but I think they discovered it was from a heart attack. Yeah. And so that year, I think it was 2012, I was in the race, and I'm like, hey, this is a good chance for me because I'm a swimmer, so I survived the swim. Jump on the bike, had a great bike. I get on the run. I'm in second place in my age group. Yeah. For Kona, if you don't know, so the way that it works with qualifying for Kona, it's not a time. It is placement. And they only allocate a certain number of places per event. So every event, they allocate a certain number of spots, and then however many in your age group, they'll give more in a certain age group. So I think that year there was 3 spots. So I'm like, hey, I'm in second place. There was a guy named BJ Christensen. He's really well known in the triathlon world. I came into the run ahead of him, which doesn't happen very often. And I don't know, I got a kind of a wild hair, guys. I'm like, I'm going to see how long I can hold him up. Yeah. So I get out, I'm doing like 6:30s. Oh my God. BJ's like, he's such a cool guy. He's like, his legs are like 7 feet long. Yeah. He's like, good job, Ben. And I could tell in his eyes, he's like, going a little fast for yourself. And I get to mile 6 and he passes me. And then I get to mile 12 and I'm like, oh crap. You know that feeling. It's like the only time I've ever truly bumped. I bumped. And I ended up walking. I think I came in 5th in the age group. But I look back, I'm like, I would have just kind of kept a good pace. I probably would have. That was my chance, I think, to get to Kona. Uh, fast forward, did did Vineman with my brothers. My brothers wanted to do Vineman at the time. That wasn't Ironman sponsored.
Yeah.
You swim up the Russian River. You're like, it's really shallow, so you can actually jump off the bottom of the pool. Had a great race. That was my first time. I went under 10 hours in that race. Marathon time, I think, was like a 3:30 or something like that, which for me was pretty good. And then the last one I did was, I had gotten married at this point, and then we went and did Coeur d'Alene. Beautiful place up in Coeur d'Alene. Didn't get Kona there, but came in like around a 9:50 or something like that. So it was under 10 hours, which for me, that was a good time. And so really that Ironman stuff, that's what got me into the endurance sports. And I think Ironman St. George coming, I mean, I was pretty sold at that point. So,
dang, dude.
And so in there, what happened after that is after we did that first Ironman, right, in 2010, this group of guys in my singles ward, one of them is like the king of peer pressure. He's like, okay, we did an Ironman. Now what? So we heard about this thing called the Wasatch 100, right? So I had no desire to do Wasatch 100, like zero. And so he's like, Ben, everybody's signing up.
Oh my God.
Nobody gets in their first year. And I'm like, okay, fine, I'll sign up, because nobody gets in their first year. So it's just kind of like, I'll just save myself some face. I'll sign up. There's like a 30% chance you get in. It's a lottery. And there's like 6 or 7 of us that put in, right? But guess what? I'm the only person whose name got drawn. And they all went and did LOTOJA. They all did LOTOJA. So that was the year I did the Coeur d'Alene. Let's see. No, that was the year I did Vineman. So I did Vineman in 2011 as well. And my thing was like, I don't know how to train for this. I'm going to do Ironmans, they're pretty cool. They're in good shape. I'm going to do the Ironman. I'll do a little extra running, and it should be good.
Yeah.
And that race is something in itself. So I did. I finished it 31 hours. I came in like 80th place. You run through the night. You get. It's a cool experience. I've often told people, if you were to compare it to something like LOTOJA, I say, okay, here's the difference. Do LOTOJA, finish, and then somebody said, turn around and go back to Logan, no pacer, and go through the night. I said, that's kind of like a little bit more what it's like doing Wasatch 100.
Yeah. Oh, I bet.
So it just takes you to like some deep places. Like you want to find out what you're like when you're just totally have nothing left in the tank, and keep going. That's Wasatch 100. So it took me like, I told myself I'd never do it again. And then in 6 years later, 2017, I did it again. This time I trained for it, and I had good results. I came in 9th overall and shaved off like 6 hours, 25:09. But I wanted the under 24 belt buckle.
Wait, hold on. You just said you shaved off 6 hours.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
But sometimes, like the first time I did it, I sat down at Brighton. Brighton, they call it the morgue because people sit down, they don't want to keep going. So I sat down and I got some food. I went to the bathroom, and then my brother's like, we better get going. I'm like, how long have I been here? He says an hour. I'm like, oh my heck, it felt like 10 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
But like you guys experienced with Leadfield, right? I wanted that belt buckle. They have an under 24-hour belt buckle. And they changed the course a little bit over the years, but I didn't get the under 24. Only, I think 4 guys got it that year.
Wow.
But there is an under 29. So I got that.
Nice.
Ben, belt buckles, right? So
I know, right? Just like an absolute idiot for some belt buckle. Ben, I'm intrigued. What is it about? Like, what draws you? Are you into adventure? What draws you to this stuff? Are you like seeking to find yourself? Like, are you just a challenge? Like, when you really sit there and think, like, what is it that you're like? No, I love just the next cool thing. I mean, what is it?
Yeah, I think it's 2 things. One is I love the challenge. I feel like we feel alive when we're outside doing things.
Yeah.
And when we get up early in the morning, we're training, right? I said one time, you'll never miss a sunrise, riding your bikes with Mi Duole.
Mm-hmm.
And it's true, right? We see so many awesome sunrises. You could live another lifetime by getting up early, exercising, just getting out in the outdoors, enjoying those things. That's part of it. Sports, this kind of stuff is an outlet for me, probably for you guys as well. Like a lot of us, right? It's our outlet. When we're grumpy, my wife's always like, just get out on the bike rides, come back and be happier. As far as like maybe the challenges go is, I think so much of this is just like, hey, wanting to feel fulfilled, wanting to say, hey, can I do this? That's why we come back and do some of these year after year. Like, hey, can I still do it? Can I do it better?
Yeah.
And there's something about doing it that just like, it just makes us feel alive. And so you want to keep doing it.
I love that. Chip, any questions about?
Well, BJ Christensen, first of all, I worked with him in Brazil for 2 years.
Oh, wait.
And so that is a really cool connection there, Ben. And he is a fast runner. He is.
That guy can run. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. And then I would just say, though, that about Ben, truly has learned how to suffer, but so well with a smile on his face, just like he's talking here with us here today. So I'm just enjoying it. So we're only halfway through here, and this is really fun.
Okay. All right, Ben, this is something new I started. These are rapid fire questions. You can expound if you want. All right, maybe tell everybody what do you ride? Bikes you ride?
Okay. So I ride a Canyon CFSLX with SRAM Red E-Tap. Oh man, I love me that E-Tap. If some of the younger riders are lucky because they never had to ride with mechanical the wires that you have to get they get stretched out over time.
Yeah. But wait, I was just reminded right at the end of the season, Ben got hit by a car. Was the bike? Is this the bike? Is it okay? What happened?
Yeah. So, just coming down. Emigration, and turn left at that, right at the bottom there. And I thought the guy saw me because he had stopped, and then as soon as I start turning, he guns it, and we just collided. Right. The bike was okay. I replaced handlebars, hoods, just one of the little shifters, and luckily the frame actually was okay. The seat was all messed up. My body, I just had a few scrapes. I was really lucky. And I would say thank you. I don't know. I know I thanked you by text, but thanks for calling, Stu. You were one of the first, I don't know how you heard, but you called and said, hey, heard this happen or whatever, and make sure you're okay. So thanks for that. I do appreciate it. It's nice to know, guys in the team are concerned and want to make sure you're okay when stuff like that happens. So thank you.
Yeah, man. That was a deadly
bike is okay.
Okay, bike's okay. Good. Okay. Of all the sports you do, favorite, what do you choose?
All the sports?
Yeah, of all that you do. Which one are you like? Oh yeah, no, I'm a backcountry skier. Can't wait for that.
It's a trick question too, because I enjoy skiing in the winter and cycling in the summer. I'd probably pick cycling over running a little bit, but it's like a girlfriend, right? Like I haven't seen my running shoes in a while. So,
we're gonna have to edit that part out. Okay. Favorite place to train, like favorite loop, favorite ride. Where do you love to go?
I love the Guardsman PC loop. I like versus going the other way around. Barsack and Empire. It's a suffer. That was hard, but it's so beautiful. And I love that.
I agree. Favorite place to travel? Have you spent much time traveling? Favorite place?
My family loves to go to Florida Gulf Coast. Been a couple times, 3 times, and we love it up there. It's like the water's warm, so the kids will play. When we go to California, the kids won't get in the water. It's too cold.
Yeah.
Love that place.
And then expound a little about what you do for work.
So as you eloquently said before, so I work for Advanced MD. We're a software company. We sell to private practices, and I am in sales. So we sell full practice management, we call. So electronic health record, the billing, the scheduling, all that stuff.
It's great.
Wonderful. Okay, good. All right, let's dig into LOTOJA. We ready?
Okay.
Okay, so 2019, is that your first time ever? Or have you done it before?
No, I have done it before. So I did it in 2013.
Okay.
I took second that year.
Oh, dang.
I'll talk about that one real quick, okay?
Okay.
Took second that year. It was Cat 5. And we before we got to Preston, my brother-in-law, I was riding with my brother-in-law. He had a team, BCBO. It's an architecture firm. Anyway, that was the team I was with. And before we get to Preston, all of a sudden, these two guys go off the front, and it's Nate Pack and David Algier. You guys know any of those guys?
I know Nate Pack, yeah.
Okay. And David Algier, do you know him?
Mm-mm.
Dude, if you ever run into that dude, he's amazing. He's a funny dude. Anyway, so they take off, and I'm like, and they have about 30 seconds. And I was sitting a little bit further back, and somebody's like, "Oh, they just took off," and I'm like, "What? Who?" And I just as soon as I saw them, I left, and I look back about 30 seconds later, nobody followed. I'm like, "Oh God!" So I'm by myself literally until Afton.
Oh my gosh, what?
Afton catch David Algier, and he looks terrible. He's like, "I bonked, man." He's like, and he grabs my wheel, and I can't get him off my wheel. He'd help a little bit. I'm trying to chase Nate, and anyway, so I finally at Hoback, I got to get rid of this guy. So he stops, and I don't stop. I blew right through that, and luckily he stopped, grabbed something, and I was like, "Oh, phew," because he was just sitting there, he wouldn't pull, and never caught Nate. Nate did 9 hours that year.
Oh,
9
wow.
hours and like 9 seconds or something like that. 9 hours, 7 seconds.
What? Alone?
Second fastest time. Yeah, he literally time trialed that thing.
Oh my goodness.
So, and that year, I think there was like 5 flights of Cat 5. It was a huge Cat 5 group, but in our flight, I think, he won it. He did a 9 flat in 7 seconds.
And you weren't with him. You just rolled across in second alone.
I rolled in second. I did a 9:07 that year. I was by myself.
Dude, that is fast.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Wow, Ben.
Okay. So then you took some time off.
So then I took time off. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
I'd gotten married, and so, I was doing the married thing, and I did a few little triathlons, went back to some of that. I think I had done Boston the next year. Actually, I did Boston Marathon. Somebody's like, "You should do Boston." Well, okay, let's do Boston.
Same guy in the ward.
He just watches you.
He's the peer pressure guy. I promise I've never done drugs, guys. Okay? That was the year after the bombing. It was so cool. There was guys with rifles on the top. Anyway, okay, back to LOTOJA. So all of a sudden, I started at Advanced MD in 2019. And one thing that's kind of interesting about this is all of a sudden there's this kid named Code, and he's like, "Hey, I want to get some people together to do LOTOJA." And I'm like, "Okay, yeah, I've done LOTOJA." And guess who else is working there? Matt Bailey. Matt Bailey works at Advanced MD. That's where I met Matt.
Nice.
Matt actually knew my brother from swimming at the U, so he was telling me, "Oh, I know your brother." So Matt and I are in this room with this other guy, and there's like 3 or 4 of us. I'm the only one that's done LOTOJA. Actually, I think Coden had done it once, and they're like, "We're going to do it. Let's get a team." We had our Advanced MD jerseys or whatever, and they signed up. But I kind of feel like I pulled the fast one on them. Like they were going to do just the regular ride. And I'm kind of like, I've done LOTOJA. Like I can't do. And I was competitive. I can't do the ride. So I signed up for the race, and I'm like, "Guys, you're going to be mad I signed up for the race category." I bet Matt was mad looking back, but so we did some training together. I really didn't know Matt that well, but it's interesting because after LOTOJA, Matt was just hooked, man. He was mountain biker guy right before, but I could just tell, like, this little twinkle in his eye. He was just like full on, like, all right, let's push down the gas on this pedal because I'm going to get in cycling and dominate. But anyway, so 2019, I'm in that group, right? Charles is in there.
That's right.
I've known Charles for a while. Charles and I worked at Sports Den for a little while growing up. I met Harmon because of Charles. I think Jake was in there.
Yeah.
And a few of those guys. Also Ed Smart. Ed Smart was in there.
Mm-hmm.
So that year we take off. My LOTOJA strategy has always been I am very quiet until we get to Preston. So I try to just sit back. I'm like, there's typically no fireworks, even though I should have learned my lesson in that 2013 year. But I typically just sit back. I'm like, I'm going to wait till we get to Preston. Then I kind of pull to the front. So that was my plan that year. I pull to the front. We start going up Strawberry, and there's some fireworks going off, right? And in fact, I kind of came to the front and I set a pace. And then all of a sudden, Ed Smart just like,
what a surprise, huh? What a surprise.
Yeah, right? It's like firecracker just goes. And I'm like, honestly, I was like barely hanging on his wheel. He's like, did anybody follow? I'm like, no. He's like, are you good with that? I'm like, sure, I guess. And then we slowed down a little bit. And then after a little while, then the group, a smaller group caught up. We probably have like 6 or 7 of us right at that point. So then we get to Salt Creek, right? Or actually, okay, we get to Montpelier, and we're like, okay, quick break, and we'll meet up. So I go to my wife's there, and I didn't put any sunblock on. So I'm like, Katie, you gotta put me sunblock. I'm a white guy.
Yeah.
So very fair skin. And so I go up. I get all that on. Go up, and I'm like, where is everybody? I actually like almost stopped. I'm like looking back. I'm like, where are they? And so I come up and I actually run into Matt and that group. And I'm like, Matt, did that group go ahead? He's like, yeah, they're up there a little bit.
Oh my gosh.
And so I hope I don't get disqualified for LOTOJA for saying this, but Matt's like, do you want me to pull you a little bit? He's like, yeah, make sure nobody's looking. So Matt comes over and I grab his wheel for probably only like maybe like 2 minutes, right?
Yeah.
And then he's like, okay, that's good. I'm like, okay, thanks, Matt. And then because I can see him now in my sights. And then I came up and I went all the way to the very front of the line. And I'm like, hey guys, I'm like, where did you guys go? And they're like, we didn't know where you were. We waited for a minute. So maybe I did take a little bit longer, but I wanted to make sure like they knew like I was back. So I went to the front.
Yeah.
Get to Salt Creek. In Salt Creek, I kind of just punched it up there. Then the group broke up, right? Now we're have like a group of 5 of us. Group of 5 of us. That's the same group that carried all the way to the finish line, and then
nice.
Punched it, for the finish. That was 2018.
And then you're like, and so, and this is an interesting. I mean, if you know anything about like LOTOJA lore, I don't know. There are guys that are just prolific in that Cat 5. LOTOJA is the only race they do, and so they're just like, oh, I'll just stay in this group. That's fine. Okay, so you make the decision. You're like, well, yeah, Cat 4, let's do it. I mean, was that just natural? Obviously, you're going to just do another group.
Yeah. So I've heard people talk about that, and I've heard people say like, what on earth is that person doing? Like, in Cat 5? I didn't want to be that guy.
Okay.
I didn't want to be. And plus, I'm like, at this point, like honestly, cycling for me before this point was always kind of like, I'll do LOTOJA, or I wasn't really ever gonna be like, into cycling. That was gonna be my like do lots and lots of races. It was kind of like, LOTOJA is like, I'll train for that. It's a big race. I'll just go and do it. But I was starting to, at that point, to be kind of like, hey, I want to do more cycling and do some more races. So I moved up to Cat 4. And that year, I don't think there was any Mi Duole guys. I wasn't part of Mi Duole yet.
Yeah.
So I think I still raced in my advanced MD jersey. Saw tons of Mi Duole guys out on the course actually that year. And the thoughts were spinning at this point. I'm like, hey, maybe I do want to join this group because I'm kind of like, I'm just like me riding my bike.
Yeah.
Like, it's not as much fun, right? But anyway, that year was a very similar story. The way I approach LOTOJA is I like to be kind of like in charge of the pace. So up those climbs, I like to lead those climbs. Maybe some people might think, oh, you might want to draft and save yourself. For me, I like to set the pace.
Yeah.
Because it's something I'm comfortable with. And then if I can dwindle down that race to 5 or 7 guys, that's my goal.
Yeah.
I've learned at least, and we love cycling, so there's so much to learn, but I feel like when there's 15 guys going into the finish, it's so hard to navigate that sprint finish. But when there's 5 or 7, I feel like, okay, I can navigate this a little bit better, right? When you got 5 or 7 dudes, 15, 20, you're like, oh, man, I mean, it's going to be a crapshoot. Like I could get really stacked behind, right? So that's my goal, is go up Strawberry. I sit quiet till Preston, come up to the front at Preston, and I'm going to start to set the pace. And then by the end of Strawberry, I want to trickle it down to if I can, 15, 20 guys, if I can, right? This is what I'm trying to strategize. Then boom, we get to Salt Creek. Now I want to get it down to 5 or 7 guys. So I want to punch it up that and, see if we can get that group down to 5 or 7 guys. And that's going to be the dudes we're going to go into the finish with, right? The only other spot I sometimes like to punch it is right before the bike path. There's that little climb.
Yeah.
I like to punch it there too, because if there's a guy I see starting to struggle that's on the back, I'm like, I got to get him off, because it's one extra guy that could get in the way. So if I can punch it there, and that's what happened this year, actually. There was one guy that was kind of struggling. I'm like, we got to get rid of him. So I punched it up there, and the group kind of reorganized, but we lost that guy. And I think there was 5 of us or something like that.
Nice.
And then again, luckily, I won the sprint that year. So
not luck, Ben. Not luck.
That's so awesome.
So one thing I do need to share one thing about 2020.
Okay.
So there was a guy in our group, this guy named D. Justin Daniels. Okay. And we get to Salt Creek. I think there were 6 of us, and all of a sudden this homie, I start to lead, and all of a sudden he's like 3rd man back. He comes around and he is gone, and I don't even have time to react. Like I'm not setting that pace going up Salt Creek. So 180 miles to go. Yeah. And I'm like, good. I'm not holding that pace. Good luck, man. Good luck to you, Mr. Daniels. He ended up winning the King of the Mountain that year. 13,
Whoa.
I think was his time. So he beat all the Cat 1 dudes. But we get to the top, and it took us probably about another 20 miles before we caught him. And then I ended up, normally when I go into the sprint at LOTOJA, I try to find either who's biggest, or I try to find whoever I think has the strongest legs, and I try to get on their wheel, right? That way, if they take off, I can cover. So this year, or that year, 2020, that D. Daniels guy, he takes off again about 2 miles to the finish. And I'm like, this guy's I saw him go up that climb. Like, the dude's legit. He can ride. And so he took off, and I was on his wheel. And for a minute there, I'm like, but he's going so early. I'm like, I started to get excited. I'm like, you're leading me out. So in a way, he kind of led me out. And then once he was done, I whipped around him and then sprinted to the finish. So that was kind of an interesting just dynamic with him and learning about his style and stuff. Later, he's like, I'm not a sprinter. So he's like, I knew if I waited too late, I had no chance. So I had to go early. I'm like,
that strategy.
You let me out. Anyway, that was 2020.
He's like, you're like, do you know anything about aerodynamics there, my friend? That's good.
He's like a kind of a skinny little guy, right? Like a climber. Yeah. So I always try to find the bigger guys, right?
Yeah.
But that was 2020. So should we go to 2021?
Yeah, man. Let's do it.
Okay. So 2021. All right. Hey, won that one. Let's move up. Let's go Cat 3-4.
Yeah.
So now we're getting a little more serious, right? So now I joined Mi Duole, right? Sport the jersey.
Yes.
And come into that race. I'm very familiar with LHM, and who those guys are. I didn't know all of the guys very well. So I'll talk about that in a second. But I start the race, and Zach West, is in that with me.
Yeah.
So he's one of the only guys I think there was maybe a couple other Mi Duole guys, but I knew Zach. And so Zach came up to me and, we were chatting a little bit. He was saying hi. And then literally pretty early on in the race, all of a sudden I hear the referee. He's like, 3 minutes. And I'm like, first I don't think I heard it the first time. And the next time he says it again, I'm like, Zach, what is he saying? And he's like, no, there's some guys that went ahead already. Like that.
Oh my
Off
gosh.
front. I'm like, what? And I'm like, who is it? So Zach and I are like trying to figure it out, right? Because I'm sitting back, I'm not pulling at this point. And so finally I come up in front and I'm like, we're going slow. You know how that Cat 3-4 works. The Cat 3-4 category is like known for like, I'm not pulling, you pull, and we'll wait till sprint finish. That, to my understanding, that's how Cat 3 has been for a while. So the Cat 3-4 group. So I start to set a pace now. I'm like, okay, I'm a little worried. They kind of got to me. And it was funny because I didn't know who Zach Peterson was or Corey Jensen at that time. But at one point, they totally had planned this. I was kind of riding by them and they were like, oh, I don't know who that is off the front, man, but I'm a little worried. And they were totally making this up. And I kind of was on to them at this point. I'm like, oh, this sounds like they're talking stuff, right?
Yeah.
But this is how they were riding. They were trying to talk it up so that they didn't have to pull. And that ended up being the story that year for them in that race. That was their strategy. So yeah, Zach Peterson, Corey Jensen, Steve Kaywood, Clay Pierre was in that group that year.
Parker Smith.
What?
Wasn't Parker Smith in that group too?
I think Parker Smith was in there too.
Yeah.
So they were just talking this game. And then finally Zach and are trying to he comes up to me, he's like, Ben, he's like, none of the contenders are up front. It's a couple LHM guys that are not going to. So then we're kind of like, yeah, I think I'm kind of on with these guys, right? So then I kind of tail back a little bit. I'm like, all right, I'm not going to like burn all my energy trying to chase these kids. And that was what they were hoping, right? That was their strategy. So we get to Strawberry. I did set the pace there. We go up Strawberry, lose a few guys. We're down to like 12. Okay, at this point, 12 guys.
You picked one guy up though.
Oh yes. Where did they pick you up, Stu?
Right there, right at the top of Strawberry.
Yeah. Stu, but I was like mad to see you, Stu. I'm like, Stu, why are you here? Didn't I tell you? I'm like, I had a good feeling about you this year. You were in good form. I was like, Stu, why are you here?
I'm like, I got tubes. Yeah, I got flat. It was still a good day.
I was so mad. I was like, Stu, what the crap, dude? You need to be up there in the category to get on the podium.
Oh well.
So we pick you up, and I think you were kind of worried too. You're like, I'll ride with you guys for a little bit because like you're like in no man's land. Yeah. And you're kind of like riding off the back so that you don't get in trouble. Kind of. You're like,
well, and we were like the third group off. There's nobody out there. Like there's no one out there.
Yeah. Anyway. But I know the referee would come by and you'd kind of like drift back a little bit, and then you come back and join us. Something like that.
So dumb.
So I think you were the only Mi Duole guy I had at that point because I had lost everybody else. There was 12 of us. And then we punch one more time, or actually no. So we get to Salt Creek, and this is usually I like to lead the charge at Salt Creek, but all of a sudden Steve Kaywood takes off, and then Jess takes off. So I get a little bit nervous, but I'm like, that pace, like I'm not going to burn all my matches trying to catch him. I'm like, because this is what their strategy's been, right? Like, let them go. So we go up, and then there's, I think the group does split up. So there's those two up front, and then me and like 4 other guys, and then there's like another 6 behind us. Get to the top, start riding down, and I'm kind of like, hey, great, we've got a break here. Let's go catch the guys in front of us. But we weren't working very well. So the group behind us ended up catching us. I think Zach was in that group. And now we had like 12 of us again, right? Or 11 of us again. So we ended up catching the Jess and Steve Kaywood. And I think Zach at that point flats. And he actually looked back. He's like, hey, is my tire low? I'm like, are you
Oh.
riding tubeless? He's like, no. And I'm like, I think you're good. And then all of a sudden I look down again. I'm like, oh no, you got a flat. He's like, okay. So he's off the back. So we lost that. We come into the finish. I think we did lose a couple guys. I think we're down to maybe 8 at this point. Okay. And we start coming up. There's that one hill I like, that last little puncher before that. And I pick it up there, and I actually get a little bit of a break with 1 or 2 guys, but we don't hold it. When we get on the bike path, we all regroup. So we have 7 or 8 of us right there, and we're on the bike path. And I've heard some people attack at the bike path. I'm kind of curious about that, but with this group, I'm like, I don't think I could sustain. So I'm like, and I had started to develop some friends that were not with the LHM guys at this point. So there was 2 other guys, and one of these guys was from Jackson. He's from Jackson. I forget his name. However, he comes up to me and he's like, do you want a break? I'll work with you. And this other guy will work with us. He's like, unless he actually said, you have pretty big legs. Maybe you don't. He was a little skinnier guy, but
that's going to be the name of the podcast. The name of the podcast.
Ben's legs. That's
I'm like, is that a compliment?
That's funny.
So he actually did try. I could try to clip up the pace a little bit at one spot. I think one of the turns, he tried to like pick it up on the turn to catch people off guard, but honestly, he didn't. He got a little separation. I just felt like, and I actually was going to follow him, but I'm kind of like, I wasn't right behind him, and I'm like, I don't see it happening. This group's too strong. Nobody's getting away at this point. So we come in together, all of the group, and we're riding in a line. Everybody's moving through the line pretty good, going up to the finish. And I see, I think it's the 500 meter sign. And if you start to turn right, and there's a little bit as we turn, I think I was like 3rd or 4th man back. There, as you start to turn, there was a little bit of gap in between that sign where we were and our line going into that finish. And I'm like, there's my window. Like at that point I was waiting to cover too. I was very nervous. I was like so antsy because like anytime somebody would pick up the pace, I would actually like get out of the line and like go up and like get on their wheels. So I didn't want to get caught like 4 man deep. So at that point I saw that little gap in between the sign and I just punched it, man. I'm like all out. This like it's all or nothing. So I punched it as hard as I could. Didn't even look back until I could see the sign, and then I don't know how, but somehow I got it done that day. So
dude, you held on for a long time. That's a long sprint.
Yeah, it was a little long.
Money.
So maybe a little early. Luckily, I think I pushed it enough and got a bit of a gap and was able to carry that to the finish that year. Super fun,
So fun
day.
Dude, so cool. I don't know if there's very many riders out there that can claim those back to back to back. So, dude, big kudos. Nice job, Ben. Cool. Hey, man. So through all this, this is a prolific resume of endurance activities. You got to have some advice, maybe your mantra, one thing that I really admire, Ben, you don't spend a ton of time out from my perspective, riding. So maybe advice on how you manage it all, kind of how your mindset into going into this stuff. Is it just for fun? Are you super competitive? Maybe just talk about some advice and how you manage it all.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think it's a hard thing, right? And I'll first just say, like, we're so blessed. Everybody that rides with Mi Duole, in some ways it can feel selfish, right? We're making friendships, we're riding together, right? But it is a little bit selfish. We're doing these races, we're trying to balance our family time. Right. And I have a really supportive wife. She always has a Wednesday spin class. That's her day. And she gives me Saturdays. And then we a lot of times work out some of the other days. I would say I've been blessed. I have a lot of races I've done in the past. I think have helped me endurance-wise to build a really good base.
Yeah.
And I feed off of that. Swimming my whole life, I feel like that helped build me into an old guy athlete, if you will. We're old guy athletes, you and me, Stu,
Right.
Our 40s. I do. So a couple of things I would say. I love this quote for me for LOTOJA. It's Rocky Balboa. He says, if you heard the one, he said, it's not about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward.
Yeah.
Love that quote by the Rocky Balboa. Couple things I would say as far as nutrition goes. I've learned that over the years. I'm very pro liquid diet. I will do Carbo Pro. I will do Carbo Pro, a new tablet that got me through all my Ironmans. I love Tailwind, spring gels. I like the spring gels, but I try to do a very liquid diet. I'll do some food, but I try to get as much as I can in the bottom. The other thing I'd say is maybe just advice goes though on training. Every week I try to do at least one almost all out effort. Emmy,
Nice.
if I can, or all the way to Big, or Mill Creek. Mill Creek's
Yeah.
probably one of my favorites because it's the best thing for your buck. I can get up to Mill Creek and back to my house in like an hour and 10 minutes, right?
Right.
Best bang for your buck. So I think that's really important. You've got to really, at least once during the week, you've got to just like go for it, right?
Yeah.
Push yourself. And then, and I kind of learned that when I was training for marathons. You do track work. You got to train your body to go faster. So you break it down and give yourself some rest. I think sprint intervals and things like that are really important. And then you've got to pay, I call it paying your dues. You've got to pay your dues with those longer rides. So you've got to put in some longer rides to pay your dues to the man. Otherwise, you pay the dues during the race day because you didn't train enough, right?
Right.
A couple other things I'd say just as far as being an athlete, I would say thank you. I learned when I did Ironmans, when I was really struggling, struggled most on the run, 26 miles after all of that, right? 2.4 mile swim, 112 bike, and we got 26-mile run. And sometimes on those runs, I can't remember who told it to me, but somebody said, hey, thank the volunteers. And I remember there was one point I was really in pain, and I started saying thank you to all the volunteers.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I wasn't thinking about myself, and I felt better. So
advice.
I think, and we should recognize too, a lot of these people are volunteers. You know, they're not getting paid a ton. They put on races for us, and you know, all the time you and Chip and chipping, you guys give the team, right? I mean, thank you. I say thank you for all you've done. I mean, it makes it a much more enjoyable experience, and that's what drew me to Mi Duole. Is you've got this organization, it's organized, it's clicking on all cylinders, and that it makes it more fun versus it's just kind of a free for all, and you know, everybody's just kind of doing whatever.
Yeah.
So I love that. I think saying thank you is important. Be humble. There's a lot of guys on the team that we can learn from, even myself included. You know, guys like a Dave Sharp, guys like
Right.
that are not even on the team that we know that you can learn a lot from. So I try to not do a lot of caffeine, but I am very big, and I would do this in all my Ironmans. I learned it is you got to have that little lift me up at the end, right? I don't want to finish my races tired. So I mean, you got to pace yourself, right? But I do whatever I can coming into there just to save a little bit to just go as fast as I can and finish. And it's hard. You don't want to leave too much, but I'll always take caffeine gel at the 5 miles before the finish.
Nice.
You know, just to give me that extra little boost. I'll do that jump, right?
Right.
So that's maybe the main advice I'd give, if any. Hopefully that helps those of you that are listening.
It's good. You
know,
can't give away all your
experiment,
secrets though, Ben. You can't give it all away, Ben. When you're a hack like me, I can share everything, but not when you're like a champion.
we all know who has a lot of the PRs on the team up a lot of the time. Don't think I haven't noticed. But you know, I think be the best you can be too. You know, everybody's at a different level, and everybody has a different thing that they're trying to aim for. So I've listened to some of the podcasts, and people are with the team, and they have different goals and objectives. And I think whatever that is, be the best you can be, and help the sport and help the team make you a better person, a better athlete. Set your goals that are realistic where you want to be. And I think that's what makes us all have a fun time.
I love that. Anything that you do, you kind of alluded to it, but I mean, you've been in a lot of painful situations. Like, there's not a lot of dudes that are doing Ironman and Wasatch 100s. What is it that you kind of hold on to when it gets real dark, when it gets weird? How do you get through it?
I'm not sure how I'd answer that. I think I would call that grit. And some of that is just my personality. I would say I learned that at a young age. I told Charles Smart this. Both our kids do swimming. So here's my swimming plug.
Mm-hmm.
And I swam competitively growing up. In high school, I'd wake up at 5:30 in the morning to go to swim practice.
Yeah.
And East High School, by the way, we practice the same place. They come in at 7 first period. I don't know how we always were in the morning, but I learned in my swimming how to kind of push through the pain. I think I learned that at a young age, competing in swimming.
Nice.
And you do the 500 freestyle, and you do that first 100, you go out too fast, and then you're just in pain the rest of the way. So you learn that balance of, okay, you've got to pace yourself, but you've also got to push through that pain. So, and then learning the reward on the other end of, hey, I finished that, and how good it feels to finish, right? We all know that feeling when you finish LOTOJA, it feels so good. And what's that feeling you always have too? I don't know if you guys are like me, but sometimes I'm always like, and if I don't win or something like that, I'm like, I needed to train harder. I could have done this more. You always have that kind of regret or looking back. I should have done this better, that better. And I think that's what fuels me when it's hard. When it's hard and you have to push through that, you remember like how good it feels to finish. And I think coming through some of those Ironmans, I wake up the next day, I'm like, oh my heck, I just done an Ironman. Like, how cool is that? And so you learn that feeling, and you learn that I got to push through the pain. And if you push through the pain, and doing Wasatch was interesting because the first time I had done it, I had never run past 30 miles.
Dang.
So I remember, I think the furthest run I had done was 32 miles. So I get past that, and I'm like, I'm not running this one.
Yeah.
What's next? And
what's
I'm
that?
fascinated that if you keep fueling your body, the body will just keep going.
Yeah.
And you're going to have pain. But if you push through that, you're going to come out on top, and you're going to learn something about yourself that you can dig deeper and you can push yourself past those limits. And that's where, if I were to say any advice from an endurance perspective, it's learning. And that's what's so fun about the sport, is learning how your body can push past this pain. I think riding with Zach this year, he was starting to learn that a little bit. He's like, gosh, I was looking down, and he was riding really well this year. He's like, I was looking down at my heart rate, and my heart rate was actually okay. Even though, he's starting to kind of figure out how hard he can push himself. And I think that's what it is. Is learning that balance. And I will just leave my last thing. Sorry, long-winded, but last thing is that I think that we are all more capable than we think we are. And so these tests of these races is learning how hard you can push yourself. And I think more often than not, even if you're going to bonk, you start to learn, okay, I am a lot more powerful than I think I am.
Sure.
And that's what's fun, is learning how far you can push yourself, and then coming out on top and finishing some of these races that maybe we were hesitant or didn't have the confidence, but we end up surprising yourself. And that's where it's fun. And sometimes we do end up surprising ourselves.
Yeah. Nice, man. Dude, you're the man. So much great balance. Just like, I kind of wish I was one of your kids. I can't wait to see how they turn out, bro. They're going to be like,
well, that's the thing, right? So I don't know. I hope my kids are into it. Sometimes we set those high expectations, but more than anything, let's have fun,
Yeah, I agree.
So I want to say thank you, though, so much for all you do for the team. Really, I think I told you on one of our rides, I'm like, Stu, you're like, remember, there's a song by They Might Be Giants, like Particle Man, and he's like the like the podcast man, the run your own man, dad, Bishoprick, and he's the podcast man. I'm like, dude, you do so. You wear a lot of hats. So thanks you for all you do.
Yeah, happy to. It's really fun. My best friends have become the guys and ladies on this team, and that is a really fun thing to mix, to be able to serve and, spend time, our fun time, those sunrises together. dude, it's the best. It's such a great part of my life. And maybe one day, we'll have Mi Duole shop. I don't know. We'll see where this goes, but it honestly is a pleasure. It's really fun to meet guys like you. And I remember in the spring, I don't know if you remember, but dude, we all did Maverick together. And we had this huge movie theater filled with just Mi Duole guys. And when it ended, we all just stood up and we were like, yes. Dude, it was just so fun to like even interact in something like that together with people I want to be with. So my pleasure.
That was
man.
cool.
Yeah, it was fun.
Thanks for organizing that, by the way.
Dude, you're the man. Thank you for all your advice. Can't wait to see what's next. Anything else? Any final concluding thoughts? You good?
No, I'm good. So thanks for all you do, and look forward to riding with everybody. There's nothing like those summer days. It's
I know.
Where you don't have to put on anything long sleeve, and you're just like so comfy in your velocity gear, and you're just riding up the canyon. And
dude,
you've got some stamina at that point. Oh, it's the best.
You can get dressed in 5 minutes and not like 45.
This is true. All things true.
All right, Ben. Thanks so much, dude. It was great being with you.
Okay. Have a great day. Bye.